welcome to part 5 of the Warrior Within Docuseries. I'm your host, Jamie Bennett. This is pre-recorded. Viewer discretion is advised. I wanted to let you all know that it's pre-recorded in case, when you see this live, you're making comments. I don't want you all to think that we're ignoring you. We will go back and read the comments, and we appreciate you all being here. My guest today is going to share with you all their life journey. I met this person, amazing, incredible human being, through Cosmos Creative Television, which used to be Tardon Media Network, and I consider this wonderful human to be one of my friends. They're also a fellow host. They have several shows on Cosmos Creative Television, but they're so much more than a show host. They have done so many things in life. They've had an incredible journey, and they're going to come on here and talk about their journey, and I really appreciate them being here. So without further ado, my friend, fellow host, Rory Penland. Hello.
And I am a host, yes. So thank you for having me on. Thanks for agreeing to interview me. That's great. Wonderful.
I appreciate you being here.
Okay, in the beginning, hi.
Hello.
That's how I feel. I feel like okay, when I started in Miami. That is true. I actually was born and raised in Miami, near the Kendall area, over by Bird Road. And even though I spent most of my time with my father there, that wasn't really the years that shaped me into what I am today. I just had a kind of a normal childhood upbringing. And then at age 15, we moved up to a place called Lake City, Florida. And that's where I spent my formative years. And I started my last year of junior high school there, which was pretty uneventful. I was in the band, and I was in percussion, but there was a lot of people in percussion. So I ended up playing, like woodblock and cowbell, triangle. And to this day, it amuses me to know that people are making, like maybe 4, 5, 6 digit figures, playing in orchestras, playing woodblock and cowbell and triangle.
Wow.
So when I got into high school, I decided to try a drama class. And it was strictly to meet girls. That was the reason. That was the reason that I took that class. And I've always been able to do voices. This was something that I've always been able to do, and I've always loved movies and and television shows. So I just took off from there. I won the sophomore drama award that year. Started doing plays. My first play was a show. It was a ripoff of Grease called Rock and Roll, and I played a nerd character in it. And I had shtick that I created for my character that people just really got into. I got a huge applause at the end of every show. And at the end of that first night, when we got the applause, I was like, this is it. This is what I got to do. I got to perform. I'm liking this very much. So that's how it all got started as far as the acting. I was already in, I had found a group of people because I was a transplant, remember. I went from South Florida up to really South Georgia, because Lake City is right under the Georgia border.
Yeah.
Right there where I-75 crosses I-10. And so it's a very Southern style community. So I had to get used to that. I had to fit in there. So I found a group of guys and gals in the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps. We had JROTC in school. And that was kind of the first thing that I kind of latched onto to see where it would go. And I spent the full 4 years in there. And I got into the drama. And again, by the time I got out of high school, drama was what I wanted to do all over the place. So I went into junior college there in Lake City. It was called Lake City Community College at the time. Now it's called Gateway College. And had a wonderful director there, Paul Ferguson. I'd also met another wonderful director in the area who had worked with Paul. His name was Bob Gerard. And they really shaped me into a really fully functional character actor. I was creating characters and backgrounds for those characters so that I could be the character on stage. And again, improvise if I had to. If somebody lost a line or something, I'd be able to go in character, and pull them out of that deep chasm, without saying your line is. So, and I love working with ensembles. I learned I could sing in those years. Actually, it was that first show, Rock and Roll. I learned I could sing. I didn't even know. I had no idea. And been singing ever since. And I did many, many shows in Lake City, in the community theater and in the junior college theater. And I went down to South Florida, University of South Florida in Tampa. And in Tampa, my life changed again when I went to a comedy club and I saw live stand-up comedy. And this was back in 87, 88, early 88. So this was when the comedy wave had just started with all the Showtime and HBO specials. So there was like a comedy club just about on every corner, in town. We had several. So I started doing open mic night. I asked the guy who was the MC, I said, hey, if you ever want a night off, I do a lot of public speaking stuff. I could be an MC. He's like, really? And I actually got to be the MC at that club as a comedy corner.
Well, that's neat.
And that helped out a lot. Yeah. I mean, that gave me a lot of time to get up on stage and try the voices, do different voices. And I specialize in cartoon voices, Doc. That kind of thing. And Kermit the Frog, that kind of stuff,
That's awesome.
So I had a good year there working up my material, my routine to go out on the road as a stand-up comic. I dropped out of college, much to everybody's chagrin. And my parents were not happy. My director, Paul Ferguson, was not happy. He had set me up with his mentor in University of South Florida. It didn't go over well, but I was like, I can make a living doing this. This is fun, and I can make a living doing it. So that was my decision at the time. It was one of the worst decisions I ever made. I should have stuck with college for another year, got my degree. I should have realized that the comedy thing wasn't going to last forever. But
you never know. Like in those moments, you have to make whatever decision, and sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. Like.
As a 60-year-old trying to secure decent wages and a job today, post-pandemic, I can honestly say, again, it's the worst decision I ever made to drop out of college. Yeah. I could have continued working on my comedy routine, finished my degree, and then had that BA to fall back on if I just stayed, another year.
Yeah.
I still could have gone out on the road as a comic.
Yeah.
I didn't, when you're that age, you don't think about those things. You don't think about
Not usually. Like when I went to the university, I was told that music business was the way to go. And they cut the music business program, and then I ended up with a communications degree, and I haven't been able to secure work with a communications degree. It is a little bit easier in Georgia where I'm located because there is all sorts of music around here and different creative aspects, but I haven't been able to get a job with my degree. Like I've told people, if I had it to do over, I would probably not have gotten the degree that I got.
See, now that kind of makes me feel better because I was getting a communication degree.
Okay, so there you go.
Speech communication, yeah. So, yeah, I have a Associate of Arts degree, which is general, and that helped me to get, again, communication working, audiovisual in colleges and junior colleges throughout But yeah, and in China, if I'd had that communication degree, if I had just had that BA, I could have legally taught in China
Oh,
because
wow.
I would have had the BA degree. They just required to have a BA degree. And then I had a TEFL degree, teaching English as a foreign language, which I got while I was over there.
Oh, wow.
I moved to China in 2004 to be with my fiance at the time, who became my wife in 2004. And yeah, I mean, after that, it was, I mean, I worked in a Chinese art sweat house, working cleanup art for
Oh,
like Disney and different others. They would farm out to these cheap studios, to do the art
wow.
for a lot of their stuff. And China was one of the cheapest places in town. So I worked on Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go for Disney Saturday morning fare, which was a great show. And actually got to meet, because of that, I got to meet the guys that created the show. I took a trip to LA on the way home to Florida one year. And they said, yeah, come on out and see the studio. Come on and come to the office. We'd like to talk to you. And that was really neat. I met Ciro Neely, who is the producer on the show, and I met some of the writers, and it was nice. We also worked on Biker Mice from Mars for Canada, and there was some other stuff. Braceface, the guy that was the animated director that I worked under, he had worked on Braceface and some other Canadian shows, George Shrink. So
wow.
he had done a lot of stuff before I got in there, and I was only there for like 9 months, and then I started teaching English, even though I had no skill at all. They needed a foreign face, in order for parents, because I taught children. In order for parents, to put that money down for their kids, they needed to have a foreign teacher. And I'm like, well, I don't have any experience teaching. So the first school was like, well, why don't you come in and do what we call English Corner? And they said, you'll just talk about an English topic with our students. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And I had a little mini projector, that I could run computer stuff off of on the wall. And I knew audiovisual, from when I was working here in the Orlando area. I did audiovisual work at oh my goodness. Valencia Community College. And so I just set up a nice little PowerPoint presentation on food, or on, this, traveling, whatever the topic was. And I would make a PowerPoint presentation. We'd talk about it, and I'd have pictures, and we'd have a good time. And
Wow.
that led to me, to a very lucrative 14 years teaching
Wow.
the kids in China. Oh my gosh, so much money. It was, I was making 3 times what I'm making here.
That's wonderful.
So for the first couple of months, I decided to get the teaching English as a foreign language degree, so that I would at least seem like I was trained. But I never really had a real work visa there. I'm admitting something here that I did illegally over there.
No.
And I could have very well gotten thrown out, if I'd have gotten caught. And a lot of them did. I mean, the schools didn't want to pony up the money to get the actual work degrees. They were too expensive, and it took too long to get them.
Yeah.
They would just assume that, hey, if they got caught, they'd pay the fine, they'd get rid of the teacher and get a new teacher,
Oh, wow.
But that would get thrown out of the country, and they just find somebody else,
Oh, no.
So that was the big fear that I always worked under when I was there.
Oh, that would be stressful.
Bopping around from school to school. I even had my own school for a while, and I was able to get away with that because my wife had a special license. Consultancy. It was called a consultancy license.
Oh, okay.
So we had that consultancy license up on the wall, with my wife's name on it, and the police would come in to check us. And we go, oh, okay, all right, consultancy, okay, you can do that, all right. And they would walk out, and I got away with it for a long time with that.
Oh, goodness. That's interesting. Yeah, my cousin taught English in Korea for quite a while. So Like,
it's easier there. I don't think they threaten to throw you out of the country if you're teaching without a BA degree.
yeah, that would be a bit stressful.
Well, and that's the thing is they put the rule down. If you don't have a BA degree, you shouldn't be teaching, basically. And I didn't have a BA degree. So if I got caught, that's against the law. It's illegal. And anything you do against the law in China as an expat living there, even if you have a spouse, it's illegal, so you're going to get thrown out.
Oh, goodness.
And yeah, I almost got thrown out one time for overstaying. I overstayed on a visa. I got really sick the day I was going to go in to do my visa. And I, like an idiot, I waited to the last day, waited the last minute. And yeah, they were going to throw me out of the country. But luckily, my wife went in and smoothed things out with the people. They gave them face. Probably gave them a little something under the table.
She worked her magic.
They took the red flag off. She had a friend actually in the visa office.
Oh, wow.
And saved me from. I had to go over the border. I remember at Christmas time, so all the visa offices were closed that week. I had to stay in Hong Kong for 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks, like 10 days. And there's this little horrifying hotel, motel. And it's right there in the malls section where there's all the malls and shopping and everything. And Chungking Manor, I think is the name of it. But it's just like you walk in and you just go, oh man, keep your hand on your wallet. This place is scary. Oh, no. And they have these little dinky tiny rooms, plywood beds with foam, just a piece of foam over it.
Oh gosh.
Put a wall unit, AC. And that's where I had to live for 10 days, because that's all I could afford.
Oh gosh.
If I'd have stayed at Holiday Inn next door, it would have been like 2,000 Hong Kong a night.
Oh wow, yeah.
So, yeah. So yeah, that's what we decided I should do. And I had to get a 30-day visa to come back in, and then I applied for another year visa. And here's the real kicker on that was that Obama had made such good relations with China that they had made a 10-year visa for expats. So you only had to go in once every 10 years to change your visa.
Oh, wow.
Instead of every 3 months for visitors and every year for people that stay there with their spouse. So I had a chance to get one of those visas, and I blew it by overstaying.
Oh no.
The best I could get after that was a 2-year visa.
Oh goodness. Oh,
but yeah, I was there for 15 years. Wow. And I would go to there's reverse Chinatowns. There's expat towns in China, in various places in the city. There were 2 in Shenzhen where I lived, which was right next to Hong Kong. One was called Coco Park, and the other one, which was a shopping district, and the other one was called Shekou. And that was on the water. It was where you actually go over to Macau from China. So it was kind of like a little harbor town. And they had a lot of places, with pizza and steak and beer and, and this is where we'd all go and congregate, all of us teachers.
Of course.
And then have burgers and get smashed. And
there you go.
that was our distance. That was our weekend. So I began to miss doing performance. At the time that I left for China, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to miss this. This is living out of a suitcase. This life has been really rough. It's been, peaks and valleys. Some months were great. Some months were just, oh my God, where's my next meal coming from? But luckily, I'm a hard worker. I had like 3 different day jobs. I worked for Valencia Community College. I did work for Skull Kingdom as an actor and for Arabian Nights Dinner Theater and some other dinner theater places here in Orlando area. Awesome. But I was like, you know what? I'm not going to miss it. And I didn't for the longest time. And then about at the 10-year mark, I was like, you know what? I really want to perform again. Yeah. I got a captive audience in a class of kids, but, I really want a real audience again. So I found open mic nights. they were doing comedy nights at different clubs there in Shako and some other places around Shenzhen. And I was able to start doing comedy. And I started with the voices, and I found they don't hear those voices in the movies that they watch here.
No.
So,
Yeah.
they hear a version of Bugs Bunny, and it sounds like, but they don't hear it in English,
Yeah.
So I wasn't getting quite the response, with the voices that I used to. So I was watching a British comedian. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was brilliant. And he did something new and innovative every time he went up on stage. He did something different. And I said, that's what I got to shoot for. That's what I got to do, because all these other guys are just doing the same shtick over and over and over and over again, And if you go to the same clubs, you're hearing the same shtick over and over and over again. So I want to do something. So I started. A big influence in my life was Jonathan Winters, and Peter Sellers too. Two guys who are known for doing characters. And I was a good character actor when I was performing in Lake City and in theater. So I started creating characters to go up on stage and improvise with the crowd. The funnest of which was a 94-year-old man that I created named Orville Plick. And I would go up on stage and I would rail about, how comics don't do jokes anymore. And then I would tell a joke. And it was easy. And I had this voice out news, or something like this. Comics don't tell jokes anymore.
That's great.
And the other comics were roaring. And I went in and did Dr. Piranha, which was, I did a lot here in Orlando and Fringe Festival and all before I went to China. So I did Dr. Piranha, which was, they just didn't know what to expect. And one time I went up with Santa Claus, which was a big hit with the guy that runs the comedy show. He really thought that was the best. And I was just like, man, the first thing I said out of my mouth when I got up on stage was, man, am I stressed. And it went downhill from there. Talking about how I had to have a diverse reindeer team now. And I work up a sheet. I'd usually take a clipboard up with me and I'd have bullet points. I would work up some shit that would trigger me to do a bit of material, And then there's my Southern character, Frog. I did him there as a Southern boy living in China with his Chinese wife. And it went over very well. I was only given, like 6-7 minutes a night, but it went over. Whoa, my battery's dying already. Wow.
Oh.
So I had a lot of battery in this phone before I started. You just edit that part out. So I would go up and I would do different characters, and they didn't know what to expect. It was just kind of like people would show up just to see what I was going to do next. And again, the guy that ran the main open mic nights that I would go to, there were 2 clubs that I would go to with his show. He just loved it. He just, the fact that I didn't do the same thing over and over and over again, and that you didn't know what I was going to do next. And I got a nice little tribute show at the end when I told him I was leaving town. I was going to go back to America. They just gave me a nice send off, and it was really nice. And that's where the Judge Stern was also created.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
I decided to critique the other comics because sometimes we would get new guys that didn't know how to do comedy. And they would go up on stage and they would be terrible. So I created Judge Stern so I could bust on the other guys that I knew that did comedy every week. And the new guys who would come in, oh, yes, by all means, start your comedy routine with, I don't do this,
That's great.
That became a favorite. So, and Bruce Lowe was born there and actually went to Hong Kong and did Bruce Lowe and got a really good response. So there it is, like water.
Yeah, like you have your Man of 1,000 Voices on TikTok, I believe. Like, I believe I follow you on there.
Yeah. I try to do a different voice every couple of days. I've been really bad about not. I did a whole week's worth that I had taped like at once. I'm wearing the same shirt. You can tell because I'm wearing the same shirt in all the videos. And I did that like last week, and then I didn't do. There's like been 3 or 4 days I didn't do anything this week. I'm so bad. I was like, come on, get to work. They want those voices. And at first, I was getting a lot of ribbing from people that didn't know. They just thought I was some schmo that thought I could do voices and was not that good. Because I realized that some of the impressions are not perfect. You know, it's more quantity than quality. I'll be the first to admit it. But as time went on, I think they realized, my God, this guy can do a lot of voices. He can really do a lot of voices. They may not be perfect, but he can do a lot of voices.
Yeah.
Because some of them, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think I'm very good at Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't go, ow, ow, like other people. And a lot of people really think my Clint Eastwood is good. So, when they see those, then they're impressed. So, I'm really good. I'm liking what's going on now with the TikTok. I almost have 10,000 likes. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
I make it a point to always give hearts and likes and good comments to all the other people who impersonate on the internet, because it's not an easy thing to do, and you get busted on a lot by people. And I've seen some impersonators who are like, you know what, I don't even think I'm going to do this anymore, because they can't handle the fact that people want to bust on them and ruin their day,
Yeah.
And that's a terrible thing to do. But I've dealt with hecklers and trolls before, so I'm well aware of how they play their game. So
I had to deal with it in the radio industry. Being an on-air personality, I had to deal with it.
Oh yeah.
People would make prank calls all the time. I'm like, okay, don't you think you have something better to do than to prank call me?
Well, when I was doing the original It's Casual, and this is when I was working at the Comedy Corner in 89, 90, the other show hosts would call up and do voices and would bust on me and bust on my guests.
Oh, no.
And, at first, it used to upset me because it was just people, just yelling out stupid stuff on the phones. But then I started to improvise with it. And I actually got some respect from the other show hosts because I actually rolled with it, whereas others would just freak out and hang up the phone,
Yeah.
Well,
I think
that also is probably early influence on my, on liking to do improv stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to do improv in college, and I always liked doing improv. We had a lot of fun with it in the drama club. And that's what we would do, is we'd do improv like once a week. And it's a lot of fun. Like, it really is. I miss doing improv.
Yeah, again, you work with an ensemble, and if the other people are really good at what they do, even if you're not the fastest thinker, up on stage, which I'm not, you can create some magic. You can still create some fun, magical, stuff for the audiences. And by the way, this is my decapitated gnome. Diane Marie Call sent this to me as a gift, along with a decapitated polar bear. And I drink out of their heads, and it gives me such joy.
Well, if it makes you happy, that's what matters.
I use this as general howitzer all the time on the big monster reefing room.
Georgia, we love our gnomes here, like the big gnome country.
So luckily, I got back into comedy kind of on a small scale in my latter years in China. And eventually my wife would listen to some of my daughter's friends' parents. She was going to one of the greatest schools for music and performance in China. Their choir was actually invited to the Olympic ceremony in 2008 in China. So she was in a really, really good school. And one of the parents there of one of the other kids said, if you take your daughter and she gets her high school diploma in America, she can come back to China and go to any college she wants.
Oh, wow.
So my wife was like, you don't want to go back to America for a few years? I was like, what? Are you kidding? Is this a trap?
This is a trick question.
And she said no. One of the other parents, a couple of the other parents, were talking to me, and they're saying, you can go if she gets her degree in high school. There, she can come back to China, go to any college she wants. Now, I wish that I'd listened to my inner self and said, you know what, you're happy here, things are going pretty well here. Why mess that up?
Yeah.
Because we came back. America is a very different place than when I left it. It's very divided. It's very expensive. It was expensive when I left, but even more so now.
Yeah.
I don't know how people can make a living. When they're just, everybody's got their hand out, and wherever you go, wherever you turn, and it's like they always want a lot.
Yeah.
I took my car in for service, for 50,000 miles service, and I had to get new tires on it, granted, but it was $1,500.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute. That's a whole month's worth of pay.
Yeah.
For schlepping pizzas. So including tips. So my daughter would have been happier if she had stayed in China with her friends at that wonderful school she was at. They found out that she had an American passport and a Chinese ID card. They said, you got to give one up.
No.
Which is that's a big thing. So she decided to give up the Chinese ID card, and we ended up cutting it up. But it's going to be very tough for her to get back in, as a citizen of China, if that's what she wants in life.
Yeah.
She'll have to cut up her passport. She'll have to go through all the motions and it's not going to be easy.
No.
So hindsight, and again, the pandemic was part of the problem. And again, the pandemic has made China a very different place now, from what my wife tells me.
Yeah.
It's very difficult there. A lot of people are struggling. That they keep having outbreaks. People keep stealing the vaccines, and and replacing them with fakes. Old people are ending up in the hospital for the rest of their lives. It's a rough place now. So I mean, it's just like, wow. No matter where I go, it's not going to be easy. But the one great thing that came from coming here was meeting Renee Jaworski and becoming part of this wonderful universe that's been created. As far as we're not making any money,
but we're having fun.
But we're having fun. We're doing what we want to do. I'm not getting any younger. I want to leave something behind, so that people will know that I was on this rock